Hi, everybody. I'm Charlie Applestein, and I am the author of the book No Such Thing as a Bad Kid: Understanding and Responding to Kids with Emotional Behavior Challenges Using a Positive Strength-Based Approach. Uh, Got to tell you right away, I'm kind of guilty about this book because I wrote it before I became a parent. My next book is There's Only One Bad Kid, mine. Only kidding, got a great kid. So Maura wanted me to speak to you about what I'm doing with the Quincy Public Schools. And what I've been doing for the last year or so is teaching the teachers to use what we call a positive trauma-informed strength-based approach. What is it? Here's a simple definition of strength-based practice. Strength-based practice is an emerging approach to guiding students, and in particular, those with emotional behavior challenges, that is exceptionally positive and inspiring. It's focused on strength building rather than flaw fixing, what kids do right versus what they do wrong. It begins with the belief that all young people have or can develop strengths and use past successes to curb problem behavior and enhance academics and social functioning. That's a simple definition, but to me, the approach I'm teaching the Quincy Public School personnel is really about two words: attitude and actions. Strength-based practice starts with the attitude every teacher relays to their students from the moment they meet until forever that says, I believe in you. I think you're one amazing kid. You're going to make it with me, you're going to make it in life, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of your journey. Now let's get going. Then everything a school personnel does with a kid, and in particular a more challenging one, needs to be an extension of that attitude that says, boy, I look forward to seeing you every day. You're going to make it with me, you're going to make it in life, let's go. And why is that so important? Well, when a teacher, a principal, a bus driver smiles and presents in a positive, inspirational way to kids every day, it literally does a multitude of things that enhance that kid's potential. One, when you're so positive every day, it gets kids feeling good. And when they feel good, they actually start to use upper parts of the brain that they haven't used before. Chemicals literally get released in their brain that help them function at a higher level. This strength-based stuff that I'm giving the Quincy teachers, it's as much neurological as it is psychological. Literally, the brain changes among positive people, among positive environments. And when you get kids feeling good, not only does it produce brain change, but that great relationships start to form. And almost all the research now on school discipline is saying the same thing. If you want kids to really behave better, if you want them to learn more, build great relationships with them. It's not about all the rules and structure, it's about building great relationships. Sure, you need that other stuff. But one teacher building a strong relationship with an at-risk kid can change that kid's life. I heard James Garbarino speak a few years ago. He's one of the world's foremost experts on kids and violence, written 30 books. He got in front of a group of 1,000 people in Las Vegas and said, we can now predict with almost 100% certainty whether a tough teenager with a history of aggression will commit another act of aggression when he or she enters the high school in the fall. If we can look into this kid's life at any moment while they're at the school and see this one factor present, we don't worry about the kid anymore. What do you think that is? If a tough kid with a history of aggression can wake up every day at a school, particularly high school, knowing there's at least one teacher who thinks I'm terrific, the odds of that kid doing something serious go down about zero. Zero. Again, you could talk about behavior management up the wazoo. And certainly that's important. I'm not eschewing that. But what strength-based practice is all about is building great relationships, changing the mindset of kids so they wake up every day feeling valued, with potential. I could go on for 10 hours expounding on why this is so important. Let me read you a little research on brain development, on what positivity does to kids in terms of maximizing their potential. This is from Sean Acker. He wrote the book, The Happiness Advantage. Acker is a Harvard guy who studies positivity for a living and its effect on people. So I quote him now: positive emotions help humans to organize new information, keep that information in the brain longer, and retrieve it faster later on. And they enable us to make and sustain more neural connections, which allows us to think more quickly and creatively, become more skilled at complex analysis and problem solving, and see and invent new ways of doing things. Brain change. Once thought impossible is now a well-known fact, one that is supported by some of the most rigorous and cutting-edge research in neuroscience. There's the essence of the strength-based movement right there. When people are positive, greeting kids with a smile, using the right language, talking about their future, normalizing mistakes, being matter-of-fact about discipline, but passionate about success, the brain develops. Kids start using new pathways, and they function and they learn more. Larry Brentero wrote a wonderful article years back on trauma, resilience, and the brain. And this is what he writes about regarding positivity and its effect on kids who suffer trauma, any kind of abuse. He writes, neuroplasticity refers to the reality that the brain is malleable and can therefore change throughout its existence. And here's my favorite sentence in the world. Positive and frequently occurring experiences can create new neural pathways that enhance functioning and produce growth. There it is right there. When teachers are incredibly positive, and I give them a multitude of techniques to be positive, from how you greet a kid in the morning, to the words you use, the words you don't use, how you turn negative behavior around, how you talk about the future, how you make sure every kid has multiple success opportunities every day, and that it's important to trumpet those successes by sending postcards, putting things on walls. When you do all of this stuff, you see dramatic change in kids. And again, I'm rambling a little bit, but it's really about inspiring them. It's about understanding every kid has amazing potential. And if they're not making it, it's often their thoughts and it's the environment. And if we can change the way they think about themselves through our actions, if we can change environments to be even more positive and inspirational, you see dramatic change. And so my work in Quincy, which has been great, I've met so many wonderful teachers, is all about giving the staff so many ways to change kids from the inside out. One little thing I talk about all the time is the train. I tell every kid, every one of you is like a train, a big powerful train, but right now you got a little off track. You got some wheels spinning, wheels sipping, smokes, but we just got to get you back on track, that's all. Say it, back on track, Jack. Back on track, Jack. When my daughter was 4 years old, she come up to me, I know, Dad. Yeah, train's off track. No playground till we get the train back on track. Toughest kid I've ever worked with. 8-year-old kid, totally out of control. They were this close to putting the kid into a special ed school. They asked me to start working with them, and I brought in all this positive strength-based stuff. And I did a lot of train talk with him. I told him he's off track, and we created a behavior chart. If he could just breathe properly for 5 minutes, he gets a tie in the track. 4 ties, he gets some extra time with me or something. Well, it worked. All this positive strength-based worked, and he turned it around. 3 or 4 years later, he's in the middle school, and they call me up and they say, look, you don't need to see him every week anymore. He's fine. He has hiccups now and then, but job well done. He's okay. Why don't you take him out one last time, say goodbye, celebrate, we'll take over. I said, okay. So I took him out for a pizza for a final visit after 4 years working together, and we did a lot of great reminiscing and celebrating. I drove him home, and it was the last time I ever saw him. Right before we get to his house, he looks at me and he says, hey, Mr. A. I go, yeah. He says, I've been thinking a lot about that train thing you've been talking to me about all these years. I go, really? I didn't think a 4-year-old thought much about trains. I said, a 14-year-old thought much about trains. I said, well, what have you been thinking about? He says, I've been thinking that when you and everyone else started working with me, you put a lot of coal in my engine. But when the coal ran out, I'd act out. He says, I've been thinking lately, maybe it's time for me to put the coal in. Is that one of the greatest things you ever heard in your life? I go, OMG, I dropped him off. I drove to the hobby shop near my house, and I bought this train for $100. Now every time I meet a kid, I say, that's you, man. You're a little off track, but you're going somewhere. Back on track, Jack. I have teachers and myself. I walk through schools, and I see a kid down the hallway. I know he did really well yesterday, a tough kid. I go, hey, John, heard about yesterday. You're bringing that train back to the station. I love it, man. I love this stuff. And what's great about the strength-based stuff is it makes you want to get up in the morning and see these kids, no matter how tough they are. I've taken over detention centers that are out of control, turned it around in a month. I've taken over psychiatric hospitals, residential centers, been in school districts all over North America. And I don't think I have seen one, worked with one that didn't change dramatically if they stayed the course, putting in all these positive techniques and so forth. The biggest crock in the world, I tell people this all the time, is that kids like acting out. No kid likes acting out. You put Trusum into a troubled kid and say, who would you rather be? You the one who's being provocative? You the one who's sleeping in the school? You the one who's skipping school? You the one who's being rude, bullying? Or that kid over there who has lots of friends, a wonderful family life, and a great future ahead of him? Who would you rather be? No kid would pick themselves. When kids are acting out, they're sending a message. Help me out. Help me out. I'm a good kid. Believe me. Believe in me. And that's what the strength-based practice is all about. Believing in every kid. Knowing every kid can make it. Every kid can make it. If we believe in them. If we do the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And like I said, when you do this positive stuff, it changes the brain. It literally puts kids in a position to function better. 2 months before my book came out, there's the book No Such Thing as a Bad Kid is a revision. It originally came out in '98. I spent 3 years rewriting it, and the revision came out last year. 2 months before it came out, I put a little note on LinkedIn that after 3 years of rewriting, the book's finally coming out. Guy emailed back right away, a director of a residential program, and he said, when we got your book 10 years ago, we were doing 300 restraints a year. After 6 months, we were down to 0 and have not had a restraint in 10 years. It's not the book, it's the approach. And why do they have no more restraints? Because the kids are feeling so much better, their brains are developing, and they're just at such a higher level, they don't go back to their old ways of acting. So I could go on and on and on. I just love talking about this stuff. I got to tell you, I've loved working with Maura. She really has it. She has it. And that's one of the reasons we stay in this business, is you meet people who have it, who believe, who really have passion for kids. And I think that's what keeps us going, is human relationships. And so I was thrilled to do this. I'm thrilled to work with Quincy. And if you could give me 1 more minute, I'd like you to read you one more thing. This strength-based stuff, as I said, is amazing. And it literally changes lives. It literally changes lives. And over the last 40 years, I've received many wonderful anecdotes from people who use the approach and see a difference. I think one of my favorites was from Scotland. I did some training years ago in that wonderful country. And months later, I got a lovely email from a teacher named Andrew Denholm. And I'd like to read it to you and say goodbye. I attended your training in Falkirk and have subsequently changed my whole approach to behavior management. I am now reviewing and implementing a whole school strength-based system to build positive relationships and change the culture of our school in a very deprived area of Falkirk. My real success story has been my class this year. I was asked to move from 2nd graders to 5th and 6th graders to deal with the pupils and the others that had been really, to deal with the pupils that others had really been struggling with. One boy in particular spent his entire year out of his class and had every agency look at him as he was off the wall. I read his psychologist report and didn't know where to begin. He didn't work well in groups, wouldn't read out loud, and refused to do division in math. He also suffered from sore heads due to stress, and he constantly refused to do any work. I think you get the picture. Before the summer holidays, I approached him and all of the troubled pupils and said, I picked you guys. I want to work with you. They couldn't believe it. Anyway, I put in a positive system in place, greeting them every day with a big morning smile, always saying please and thank you, never raising my voice, externalizing negative behaviors. I focused on building a great relationship with this particular student as well as all the others. And now he is transformed. I reviewed his psychologist report, was able to score through everything she said he wouldn't do. He now loves division in math and has won the Class Achievement Award twice. And what really touched me the most, at Parents' Night, his mom said, I now have a happy boy. And that's amazing. I don't think it's amazing. I think when people use this approach, when people use the positivity I'm talking about, you see lives change. So I am thrilled to be helping out in Quincy. I'm thrilled to be doing what I'm doing. I'm thrilled to have met Maura and so many of the amazing people in Quincy. Thank you.